Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Sweet and Good Torah. We have Rabbi Mordecai Darvish of the Gates of Mordecai. Man, my view of the world, it changed from going into Shabbos to coming out of Shabbos. So before we went into Shabbos, Parsha Chukas, the world, the news, world was talking about, that there was maybe the civil war between Biden and Obama, and the Democratic establishment was gunning for Biden, and he had 48 more hours, and that was it. After the debate and his press conference, he was going to be gone. And then I come out of Shabbos. I was actually worried about like a Hezbollah attack in northern Israel. First thing I see, Channel 7 Israeli News, Trump assassination attempt. So what? Like, what is going on in the world? We're going to try to make a little sense of it. Any initial comments? Should I bring up the first video? What do you want to do here?
Yeah, I had a thought. We always had this debate, a question: would you kill Hitler as a baby if you knew he was going to be Hitler? All right, if you had a chance to kill him before he could cause the mayhem, would you do it? And we'd go back and forth, always debating it. And we have an interesting idea in the Torah about Ishmael as a baby. The angels come to God, and Ishmael is uh, dying of thirst in the desert, and the angels come and plead with God not to kill him. I mean, to kill him, to let him go, and God wants to save him. And there's a dialogue between them, and they say, "Don't you know, like the problems that he's going to cause for your children in the future?" And God says, "Nope, I judge a person according to where he is at that time." And at that time, he's a kid and he hasn't done anything wrong.
Yeah,
So I got to judge him, where he is, and he deserves to be alive.
yeah,
So, as long as the person doesn't do anything wrong, you can't, go out and give all these slurs. And, even if you were a prophet,
mm,
then you can't, act on your prophecy, what you think is
right.
going to happen in the
I mean,
future.
are you referring to all these people, especially like the left wingers that are calling Trump a Nazi? Is that where you're
Yeah,
going?
yeah. I mean, that's the rhetoric. It's like
Mm,
this guy is the most dangerous thing. There's clips of all these, politicians and political pundits that saying he must be stopped. We can't let him do anything. He must be taken down. He can't be let into office. He's the worst thing that could ever happen. He's a threat. He's a menace. You know what I mean? And the guy, even if they were the angels themselves and they saw the future, which
yeah,
they don't, you,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Then until a person does something, you can't your projection on them. You can't take action according to your projection.
yeah. No,
In
I'm.
Ishmael's case,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
No,
In God's eyes, a person could do tshuva, a person could, repent and do the right thing at any moment.
yeah.
So you can't act on it.
No, I found it really strange as well. I mean, from my perspective, what I've seen from Trump so far, his daughter is a Gioris, his daughter is a Jewish convert. He moves the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, which no every other president modern history has promised, no one's done. He declares the Golan Heights part of Israel. He takes out ISIS, takes out Soleimani, who was a very evil Iranian general. He pulls out of the quote unquote Obama's nuclear deal, which really guaranteed there's a sunset clause that guaranteed Iran getting nuclear weapons, and Obama was funneling billions in there, really
He
getting the
doesn't fund
program
Iran, who
right.
funds Hezbollah, who funds Hamas,
Right.
who kills it, right? Yeah.
So personally, I don't get it. I don't understand why, any Jewish person has been like so hyped up. I mean, the man's father, I think Fred Trump, like he helped build like a Torah school in New York. I think he donated some land or helped him get the land. I heard stories of like Trump flying like this young Jewish boy that had, an illness. They get testing across the country. So, right. I mean, what we've seen so far, we have not seen a man making speeches to kill all the Jewish people, right? And it doesn't make sense. Now, I will say one thing about him that I've always found a little weird with all that being said, oh, and also the Abraham Accords, but with all that being said, the guy seems to have a hard time condemning anti-Semitic. It is weird. I don't, whatever. Okay, let's go. Okay, let's roll some tape here, and then we'll. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is where we were before Shabbos. I think this symbolizes it the best of where we were before Shabbos. And here's a clip of some of Biden's falls. I'm going to talk about it as we're watching. So here it is. This is why there was a civil war in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, that's we've been seeing this for years. The Democrats are the political
Touchdown.
elite and the media.
That's a quick trip, but as you said, very impactful.
They've been covering it up. They've been covering this up for years. This isn't new.
He has allocated to invest in police departments and training of police officers. It appears as though the president did have a slight trip there as he's boarding Air Force One.
No matter what their cost, 2, 10, 12, 15, oops, stepping on them. It's black. Anyway.
Right, so this is the leader of the free world. This is the president of the United States.
Right. Again, all this was covered up before the debate. All this was covered up, glossed over, sharp as a tack.
81 million people, 81 million votes, not a stolen election, 81 million votes for this man.
Run again.
So we'll let him get a little shout out here. He put the video together.
Anyway, that's it for now. Follow me on Twitter at Don't Walk Run.
All right, so we'll give him a little shout out. Okay, so that's the first thing. So that's where kind of life was at before Shabbos. Is the civil war inside the Democratic Party, and there's a lot of talk about them going after Biden. We'll have to see what happens with this week. I think it's also the Republican convention this week, so it is mind-blowing. So we want to go to the second clip. So second clip is Dan Bongino here on Fox News, and they're going to show, I believe, a little bit of the assassination attempt. Now, Dan Bongino, I think he's a good source of information on this. He was former Secret Service, so he has some insight into what's going on here. So we'll take a look.
Your thoughts on this, Dan? Just continue where you left off on the reaction here.
So again, open security questions right now, and this is why, again, I think the Secret Service, the PR, Anthony Guglielmi, has to be very careful about what they put out. He says in his X post, and you can read it yourself. You don't need to hear it from me, that they deployed these extra resources and technology. Okay, well, which ones? You're telling me the best technology you have was deployed and you missed. All
right, so here we'll listen to him in a second, but here's the actual assassination attempt. One bullet, hits his ear, goes flying by, and we'll listen a little bit about Dan Bongino here, and then we'll comment.
130 yards. Say it was 200 yards. The Secret Service CS team, Pete, the counter sniper teams, and I'm not sure those two guys are Secret Service. We have to remember that we don't always. When we go to New York sometimes with high-level protectees, we'll use NYPD ESU counter sniper. So I'm not really sure either way, they'd still be briefed in. The question we have to ask is, if that's the best technology we have, and we had a CS team up there with a shooter that, we're trained out to 1,000 yards in the Secret Service with the counter sniper team. How did they miss someone at most, 1/5 of the way there? It doesn't make any sense. And even worse, it's broad daylight on a white roof. So again, open questions here. Was there forward-looking infrared deployed?
I'm not an expert in this stuff. What's your impression? I'll tell you what,
Well, if they tried, why did they fail? Like if this was a setup, the security, somebody was in on it or incompetent, right? That's what Bongino seems to be saying. Either they were in on it or they totally failed to do their job. And it's weird, if someone really is an expert at something, they're really buttoned up, so I don't know. Is this the trend that we're seeing in this country recently, that because of diversity, equity, and inclusion, you put anybody in a job and then, their gross incompetence comes to fruition later? or is it, an inside job? And if it's an inside job, like, how come they didn't get the job done? You know what I mean?
I mean,
what's going on?
yeah, I mean, it's really strange. I mean, there's actually video. I didn't download this video, but there's actually video of this counter sniper team. And they're like, the guy takes his eye off the scope or the sight, whatever it's called, while the assassin is trying to, shoot it, while the assassin is shooting at Trump. And there's something strange. Like, why not immediately shoot the guy? The guy has a gun. He's at this rally. Why did they wait for this guy to shoot? I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answers. I don't know. It's strange here. Maybe we'll listen a little more and then we'll go to the next clip. So let's see what he's saying.
Because there were aerial support, drones, helicopters. Something happened too. If you go back and listen to the audio, I want you to listen to this after I get off here. When Donald Trump, after this tragic thing happens, you'll see the Secret Service agents. And by the way, I know some of those guys personally. It takes a lot to run into bullets, divorcing the security failure. So at least they did that part, correctly, and they knew what they were doing after the security absolutely failed. But you're going to hear something if you listen closely. The guy mentions Hawkeye on the scene.
Just that image right there. I mean, it seems like he would be unstoppable for the next election. Just that image right there. It seems like he would win in a landslide now.
Talking about those two, the black BDU with the tactical gear CAT element, that two-man CAT element, that stands for Counter Assault Team. That's a Secret Service special weapons team, equivalent to our SWAT. So they're there. They all deployed and did what had to be.
Oh,
that the bunting around the front of the stage is probably armor. Donald Trump knew to duck. I mean, most people would. He saved his own life. That's just a fact. The evacuation did not go right. I mean, the rule with the Secret Service is cover the protectee and evacuate. The other rule is maximum to the protectee, minimum to the problem. Why minimum to the problem? Because you don't know that's the only problem. It could be a distraction. There could be another person in the crowd. So if you don't jump on the protectee, you could be looking at multiple shooters. So at least that part, the guys there, stepped up there. But the failure here is absolutely catastrophic. And I got to tell you, the Secret Service should be very careful. I can tell you and absolutely confirm from the horse's mouth, from multiple people, not just one. And I saw Congressman Waltz text this out before on X. There have been repeated requests to increase the security footprint around not just the residences of Donald Trump, but the body itself. And they have been rebuffed. Like I said, I can tell you actual quotes. The Secret.
Nice. So
there you go. Yeah, supposedly that they've been asking for more security, and they've been denied from the higher ups that clear these kind of things.
Right, and then somehow the Biden administration, I don't totally get this too. I know he's like the chief executive, but I don't think we've ever seen this before. But right, the Secret Service is somehow denying, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He is not under Secret Service protection right now, which is extraordinary in the sense that his father was killed by assassin, which we're going to see some on that soon. And his uncle, John F. Kennedy, the president, was killed by an assassin or a so-called lone gunman. We talk about a little bit about that. It's crazy. I mean, so there's really three men in this race, even though the media only acts like there's two. So that's another strange thing about this all. Like now the Kennedy, like the political royalty of the Democratic Party, it's strange to see a Kennedy that's like an outcast. That's a political outcast. It's bizarre. I mean,
and whatever, it's whoever they put in front of us, whoever they parade in front of us, right? It's not like the most qualified person. It's like a person has a resume, they list the bullet points of that. All right, it's personalities, like we said before. It's which personality you like more, and for all who he might be more qualified than the other two, but his personality is kind of like a stiff. You know what I mean?
So, you're not a fan.
And he has that raspy voice. I mean, you can only listen to it for
Okay,
minutes.
Well, you're gonna have to listen to the raspy
before you're like, I can't hear this guy anymore.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to listen a little more because that's our next clip. Okay, so we're gonna bring up RFK Jr. here talking to Tucker Carlson. and he's going to talk a little bit about what he thinks happened, the assassination of his father and his uncle. So let's listen here a little bit.
You've said a number of times publicly, many times publicly, and I think it's now been confirmed that CIA had knowledge of, at best, had knowledge of your uncle's assassination.
Knowledge.
Now, what do you think? And that's obviously true. What do you think the motive was in that killing?
Well, I think the people who were involved in it, the specific people who were involved in it were almost all associated with the Miami station, which was the largest CIA station at that time, and was basically it was the Cuban station. And the people who were involved in that station were people like Bill Harvey and David Atlee Phillips, who was clearly involved in my uncle's assassination. He was, by all evidence, he was Lee Harvey Oswald's handler at the CIA. And then E. Howard Hunt, who made a confession, David Morales, who is the chief hitman. He ran the Operation Phoenix program in Vietnam. He killed 10,000 people, civilians over there, murdered them. And he also gave a confession of being in Dallas. And then there were most of the people were associated with Cuba, and the impetus came from that group of people who were angry at my uncle for not sending an air cover during the Bay of Pigs invasion, and then even more so after the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. My uncle then developed this friendship with Khrushchev, and he shut down all of the Cuban attacks by Alpha 66 and these other groups that were harassing Cuba. They were sinking.
Can I point out something very interesting about this here? He's saying one of the main tensions between John F. Kennedy and the CIA is Kennedy trying to form warmer relationship between the US and the Soviet Union, right? So he's saying here that Kennedy was trying to create a less war footing, relationship with the Soviet Union, with Khrushchev. And what I find so interesting is, with Trump, right, you have massive attacks against Trump from the establishment and the intelligence community. What are they criticizing about? Everything's a Russian plot. And they say he's being too soft on Putin, right? So now it's in a way, we have reversal of roles here. Instead of Kennedy is a Democrat, we now have Trump that's a Republican, and the establishment is accusing him of being too cozy with Russia. Now, I mean, this builds into all the conspiracy theories and I don't know. I mean, but one thing I would like to say here is I believe from the Torah perspective, Esav's the twin brother of Yaakov, Jacob's brother Esav, Esau. Our tradition is that Esav goes on to found the Roman Empire. So it begins first in Italy, but then through the history of the Roman Empire, you have a split, and Emperor Constantine founds the Eastern Roman Empire in Constantinople. He actually moves the capital to Constantinople, and then at some point you have this split. So you have this Eastern and Western Roman Empire, and that fits into the vision given to King Nebuchadnezzar, the vision of the statue of the four empires, where the gold head is Babylon, silver arms are Persia, the gold, the copper stomach and thighs are Greece, and then the two legs of iron are Eastern and Western Rome. So it's interesting. So there's the people in Edom that are trying to bring Eastern Rome and Western Rome together. There seems to be this massive tension in the American establishment. What do you think about all
that? Yeah, because if you say that there's a religious aspect to it, then the religious aspect wants to unite. The left, as I see it everywhere around the world, is anti-God, anti-religion. So they don't want any of that, any part of that happening anywhere. They prefer the one world religion, the one world, take us back to the Tower of Babel and have, one world religion. And that one world religion is anti-God. Anti-God is the other side. The other side is Satan, You know, that it seems like their agenda, and that's why they push so hard with the LBGTQ whatever agenda, and the trans, and get the parents out of the schools, out of the kids' way, so they can't educate the kids in any kind of wholesomeness. They push the one parent household. They're very, very anti-God for a reason, and maybe just like you're saying, like they don't want the whole kingdom to come back together and exert its influence over the world that they know that they could have.
Yeah. No, so I think we'll do another video after this. I mean, we're heading into Parsha Balak, the sorcerers. We got Bilam and Balak, and we'll talk about the ancient battle and the modern battle with the modern day sorcerers. Yes, muggles, the wizarding world is real, so we'll talk about that. But it ties a lot into this, so-called like New World Order, right? So in Germany, the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, I mean, they were a liberal Christian nation in World War One. In the 20s, in the early 30s, they're a Christian nation, but yet, yeah, hold on one second. But then the Nazis. So Adolf Hitler, Yamach Shemo, he founds what's called the New Order, and then they stripped away Christianity. Of course, they wanted to kill all the Jews, but they went into this like occultic, like sorceress, like nation. They became a nation of dark magic and sorcery and atheism, and
there's a great book out there called "The Nazi Roots of the American Left," and traces is like how they shifted basically. They came over here, and the American left has its roots in Nazism in Germany.
It's in the right too. I mean, we get into like, Bay of Pigs, you start getting into George Herbert Walker Bush and that whole thing. And then his father, Prescott Bush, who was a senator, and then Herbert Walker, his father-in-law. I mean, you're talking about his father and father-in-law financed the Nazis. They financed the Nazis during World War II. Yeah.
There's individuals on every side, but
both sides.
But when you have your root identity as leftism, as anti-Godism, as let's break down the American empire, then okay, maybe you have individuals here and there, but your thesis, your underlying thesis isn't that. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, you're gonna have people, agents on both sides. You know what I mean? It's like you have players on teams, they want to really secretly be on the other team, but that doesn't mean like the left is anything good.
Yeah, and as we were saying before too, there could have been a major switch, like where before we may have had more like the anti-Semites, on the right, and now they switched to the left. I mean, look, it's like the Kabbalistic view of the right and left. It's really none of this. It's not the secular right or left. I really believe that the secular right and left, are all on the Kabbalistic left. They're all on the level of din. They're all on din. They're all attached to din in the.
Well, yeah, but left is also in the Zohar. It says that the left is the other side. The other side is the side of Satan. So.
No, but I'm not sure all the Republicans, they're not all like, attached to Hashem and following the mitzvahs. I mean, I agree that
it's the root thesis. It's like you're going to have bad apples wherever on every country, you're going to have bad people, and every kind of group of people, you're going to have a group of people. No one's 100% one thing or the other. Yeah. But as a thesis, it's like you're underlying, like, this is my worldview. This is what I believe. We believe in oppressor and oppressed. So we always side with the oppressed, even if it looks like it's wrong, even if it looks like, Hamas comes in and destroys and murders and rapes and does everything, but they're traditionally the oppressed. So they must be right. They must have had a reason for doing it. Like, yeah, really? No, it's their underlying world thesis and their world view that's corrupt. Yeah, there's good people on both sides. There's bad people on both sides. That's what Trump tried to say with the Charlottesville kind of thing. You know what I mean? But like, people take things out of context and they want to polarize and say, oh, either this or it's either that, and then you're gonna have other people coming out and pointing out the contradictions, with the individuals. But for every law, there's a rule that goes, there's an individual case, or a bunch of cases that go against that rule.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have that.
No, look, it's true. Let's bring up the next clip here. So, I mean, I think what you're talking about is very interesting. I think that's a deep video in itself. Like, we'd have to really focus on that, the political left, the political right, the Kabbalistic left and right, how do they all tie into each other? Do they tie in I mean, it's an interesting, it's a deep discussion. All right, so this is something that I've always found very interesting, that right, RFK Jr. is, he's running for president. He's being really downplayed by the media. I don't think he's polling right now, if the polls are accurate, above 20%. So he's not in a major position.
Popularity contest. He's not popular. Nobody knows about him. Main Street doesn't know about him.
Right, because they've really kept him, even though he's famous father, famous uncle, they've really kept him.
He's famous to people who know politics. He's not famous to, just like Joe Biden's not famous to anybody outside the world of politics.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Trump was a culture icon even before he got into politics. But nobody knows Biden. If it wasn't for the American media, the left, controlling and pumping his name out there, nobody in America would, the kids, the people under a certain age bracket know even who he is. You know what I mean? And everybody would have sided with Trump a long time ago, because Trump's in the raps, he's on TV. It's like everybody knows who he is. Same thing with Kennedy. Like, nobody outside the world of politics knows who he is.
Okay. All right, let me bring up this clip here, and then we'll get back to that. All right, so this is something I don't think is talked about a lot. And I think it's something very interesting. It's something I would like to look more into at some time. But Robert Kennedy was assassinated, and he was in the midst of, I believe he just locked up the Democratic nomination for president, or he's about to get it. He was killed in 1968. It's the same year that Martin Luther King Jr. was killed in 1968. And he was killed by a Palestinian terrorist. And it's such a strange thing. I mean, the Lee Harvey Oswald, the lone shooter story with Lee Harvey Oswald, I mean, he's tied into Marxism and communism. And there's the whole thing with, like, we heard a little bit about with Cuba and the Bay of Pigs and fighting against the Soviet Union. And there's more of a connection there. But this has always been so strange. What is a Palestinian terrorist doing in America, assassinating probably the next president of the United States? And no one talks about this. No one finds this interesting. I mean, it's amazing. Like, this is like never talked about.
It was Senator Robert F. Kennedy's victory speech following the California primary.
Now on to Chicago and let's win there.
The speech would be his last. As the senator and his entourage made their exit through the pantry at the Ambassador Hotel, shots rang out. Sirhan Sirhan, 24-year-old Palestinian, would be convicted and eventually sentenced to life for Robert Kennedy's murder. But was Sirhan the lone gunman?
He was not a lone gunman. He was not the only shooter in the pantry.
That bold assertion is not new. But now, 44 years after the murder, defense attorney William Pepper has filed for a new trial. He says he has hard evidence that will exonerate his client.
There is a tape recording that has been scientifically analyzed, and it indicates that 13 shots were fired.
According to Pepper, that's 5 more than the 8 shots that could have been fired from Sirhan's .22 caliber revolver, a weapon that only held 8 bullets. The tape was inadvertently made by freelance reporter Stanislaw Brzezinski, who was captured on film by ABC News. But it wasn't until new technology came along in 2004 that Pepper says 13 shots can be heard. He claims Sirhan was in front of the senator and could not have fired the 3 bullets that hit Kennedy from behind.
What do you remember about the shooting?
I was there, but I don't remember the exact moment. I don't remember pulling my gun.
The reason? Pepper says Sirhan was programmed through hypnosis by so-called conspirators to fire the gun as a diversion for the real gunman, who is still at large.
We have information with respect to who the second shooter was, but it has to be clear he's only a mechanic and he's operating on.
All right, so we're down under 10 here. I don't know. Sirhan Sirhan is a very interesting story. So I guess he's just a patsy. And
that's what I'm asking. I don't remember if it was the 3 bullets that I shot or the he shot. Like, did you shoot? You shot? You got caught? Like, what's going on? Like,
he
come
just
on,
shot him a little bit. It was the other 2 CIA guys that shot
yeah,
him.
it was the other guy, and I was under hypnosis, and they put me up to it, and yeah, come on, like, what?
But you gotta admit,
Why do you think they said Palestinian? Why do you think they brought that in?
Right. So this is something honestly that I have to look into more. I mean, I find the whole thing fascinating. So 68, so let's see. So you're talking 1 year after the war of 67. You're talking 1 year after the 6-Day War. So you're talking about Israel's miraculous defeat of, all those Arab nations. The Palestinian terrorists, the PLO, they fought with the other Arab nations. I mean, they fought in the 48 war with the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's how it started. Yasser Arafat came up, Yamak Shamo came up with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. He was Egyptian. So the whole Palestinian PLO terrorists, the whole idea of the Palestine, it didn't even start until 1964. And then 4 years later, you have a Palestinian terrorist assassinating the potential, the next president of the United States, and no one cares. The media talks about Palestinians all the time, but they got no interest in this Sirhan Sirhan that assassinated Robert Kennedy. And furthermore, here, what do you want to say?
No, what's the motive? What's the motive?
But no interest, right? We were only going to talk about Lee Harvey Oswald. We got no interest in this Sirhan Sirhan guy, right? No interest. And they talk about Palestinians all the time. Well, for one thing, it doesn't make the poor oppressed Palestinians look so good, when they killed, a Kennedy. But now we live in this strange age where we have an actual Kennedy, where the rest of his family is against him and denouncing him publicly, and he's like this. They're calling him a conspiracy theorist. And when did that start? When did the word conspiracy start? The whole idea of a conspiracy theorist is someone that had a theory that John F. Kennedy wasn't killed by just one gunman, because the Zapruder film showed clearly that there was a bullet coming from the front of Kennedy, right in his head. His head goes to the back and to the left. And then that whole expression of conspiracy theorists started. Oh, you're just a conspiracy. Right. You have a conspiracy theory that it wasn't just Lee Harvey Oswald, right?
Yeah.
It's all mind-boggling. And all this corruption and all this stuff has been percolating for so long. And it's
nobody. You're not going to get the truth out anyway. What is the truth? What really happened over there? When you showed about, even Tucker saying, oh, they had some involvement. What is this, some involvement? They did it, they didn't do it. Did they set it up or they didn't set it up? Like, what is this? Like, why can't we just say things as they are? It's like double speak. One side of your mouth, like, you kind of point towards one way, and then the other side of your mouth, you kind of point through you make it suffix, like Amalek, like you make it seem like, oh, maybe it's not what it seems. Like, either say what it is and then get it done with. And yeah, like, obviously, like the media manipulates you, right? Because they're there's a Project Mockingbird, which I don't think you mentioned, which is the government agencies telling the media what to tell the public in order to foster their thought waves, to get them thinking a certain way so they can do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
To hold to their power.
No, I mean, right.
You're not going to get the real thing.
Right. I think it was during the Church Committee in Congress, and they're showing that the CIA had like an MK Ultra program, which is a mind control program. That's what Sirhan is claiming, that he was like brainwashed, mind controlled. Then you have the Mockingbird program, where they're infiltrating the media. And I think, look, for sure, it's not even hidden anymore. You know, you have this news story of 51 intelligence agents, you know, or 51 members of the intelligence community say that Hunter Biden's laptop, is not Hunter Biden's laptop, which they now proved in trial that he was convicted of a felony, that it was Hunter Biden's laptop, but it's not his laptop. You know, the intelligence community says this. It's not his laptop. It's Russian disinformation. That's that. I mean,
So
you can't get more Project Mockingbird than that. You know, it's like,
okay, so my antennas go up, and I'm like, wait a minute. Leading up to the 2020 election, they were so bright to hide the laptop, to make things. Biden seemed like he's normal and vibrant and okay and can handle everything, And then through the years, the 4 years in office, he's been made to look like a stumbling, bumbling idiot. And right now it seems like they're like losing control, like everything they're trying to do, the Trump trying to lock him up, trying to frame him, to try to get bogus charges against him, try to assassinate. Everything they're doing is counterproductive, because it just fuels the other side and emboldens the other side, and gets more Trump support, even in those in the middle. And it seems like the once intelligent people are now like stupid. Something is not right here.
all right, so we're about 3 minutes here, so we're gonna wrap it up for today. If people like it, we'll do a part two. I was gonna say this. I mean, I don't fully understand what's going on. I mean, I do believe Hashem is directing major events. He's pushing everyone in a certain direction. I mean, we do have this big contest. Who's going to be the next, president of America? I mean, Israel's existential war with Iran through their proxies. There's a lot going on in the world, but I do believe that all these events are pushing Jewish people to do teshuvah, to wake up, to start learning Torah again, to start doing the mitzvahs, to go back to our mission and our purpose. We're about at 2 minutes. What's your final takeaway from all that?
The final take is this: is that at the end of the day, everything, the truth will be obscured, and you won't know, what's right and what's left. And all you have to rely on is your Father in heaven. Just get back to Him. Direct your thoughts, your hearts, your prayers to Him, and ask if you need guidance. Ask for guidance from Him. Out there, you have nobody. You have nobody. All institutions are gone. All personalities are corrupt, and you don't know who's who and what's what.
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely in Ha'emes Tihiyeh Nederes, like as it says in the last mission in Sota, the conditions before the coming of Mashiach. And I say we're close. I say we are real close. We'll talk about it more soon. We're in the month of Tammuz. Hashem's name is backwards. This is a very tricky month. Like, we have to really work hard to bring out the good and the bracha in this month. We're heading into the 3 weeks, heading into the 17th of Tammuz, heading into Tisha B'Av. So let's learn Torah. Let's do mitzvahs.
Hold your breath. Hold your breath, buddy.
Let's do tefillah. Let's pray. Let's bring the good down, because we really need it. All right. That's it. Any final words?
Just remind everybody to subscribe, like, share, get us going out there. If you like our content, you want to support our work.
All right, so we should have some comments on this one. Okay, we're going to wrap it up for today. We'll see you guys soon on Sweet and Good Torah and the Gates of Mordecai.